There's a video on YouTube created by a creator called Boring Keith, who created this video about Beastars, which is this video. And in my YouTube analytics, the reason most people are coming to my videos, the number 2 video, is that video. That's so cool, because I'm actually, I made this video, I wrote this script before I had this analytics. This is literally last week's analytics. This was really like a month ago. But this is last week's analytics. I'm literally talking about that video in this video later on, which I think is awesome. And most of you probably came from that video, so if you did, hi, welcome to the channel. This is Overthinking Anime, where I think all things anime, otaku, and manga related. That's my intro. Ha. And for anyone that hasn't seen Boring Keith's video on the deeper look at Beastars, it is a 3-hour long video, but it is a good 3 hours of your time. Spend it well, watch it, and enjoy it. And hey, considering this is what it's like, this is the channel between my channel and his, Keith, if you ever want to collab or work on a Beastars video, let's begin the video then, shall we? While I do agree with a lot of his points in the videos, I also am aware that it is his personal interpretation. I think his personal interpretation of the series is an amazing view on the series, but my personal interpretation of the series differs, and I think while his points are good, I disagree with a lot of them. Throughout the series of Beastars, there is this constant, are they, aren't they, or around Louis and Legoshi, where a lot of the subtext seems to imply that Louis and Legoshi are romantically interested in each other, and I think that is partially true. However, it's far more complicated than simply saying, yes, they are, or no, they're not. Because there's no doubt in anyone's mind that these characters do definitely love each other. However, there is a discussion to be had whether it's agape, eros, or philia love. And each person will have their own interpretation as to which version they are displaying. And this is my personal interpretation. As I just said, hi, hello, welcome to the video. My name is Danahan, and this is Overthinking Anime, where I think all things anime, manga, and otaku related. Let's talk about Beastars, shall we? However, before we talk about Legoshi and Louis' interpretive tension, we first need to go back a few scenes and talk about Louis' pride and shadow in the scenes prior, and how the anime changes the manga story layout to tell a different story. The first scene consists of Louis accepting a certificate on behalf of the drama department. While all the actors are lined up on stage, the focus of the scene is, of course, Louis, presented by the fact that he is the one receiving the award. He is the one in the center of the stage. He is the one in the spotlight. Of course, the in-universe reason for this is Louis is one of the lead actors in the drama department, so it makes sense he'd be the one receiving the award. However, in reality, it probably would make more sense for Sanu to accept the award because he is the president of the drama department, but the overall image of the drama department is the lead actor, who is Louis. So it makes sense that they want the face of the department to be the charming, put together, noble character. Of course, on a symbolic level, Louis is also the one in the spotlight. He is the center focus. He is the most important character. Louis stands in front of the school, the green of his jacket contrasting to the red of the auditorium, helping him to stand out, the light shining onto him and creating a glow around him. It is a good scene, but I think this scene... Where's my book? This scene works so much better and more powerfully in the manga, and really reinforces the amount of power Louis holds in the school. Instead of Louis already be on stage when the speech is being given, he instead walks into the auditorium during the speech, leading the rest of the drama department up onto the stage as a leader, walking through the aisles and being the center focus of the room. As the doors open, light would flood into the dark room, and many would have to turn around to face the light, in which Louis stands as a shadow of himself. Literally, he is enveloped in light so he cannot be seen. He is a shadow of himself, and where his literal shadow extends deep into the room, just like with the beast, reinforcing the idea of power and strength he has. His shadow lunges and extends deep into the room. None of the other characters' shadows reach into the auditorium. It is only Louis' shadow that does this. These panels also just seep with arrogance and superiority. While I'm sure it was agreed on beforehand between Louis and the principal, the act of showing up late to a meeting, stealing the spotlight, and taking as much time as he wants to get there radiates power. Imagine this in any other situation. Imagine if you were hiring someone for a job and there was 5 minutes past the start of the interview, but they still haven't shown up. There are there's like a lot of ways, but there's 2 main ways it could have played out that I want to focus on. Option 1, they scurry into the room as fast as they can. They try to apologise to you. They tell you, sorry, my train was delayed. I tried to get the early one, but I was cancelled, so I had to get the later one. I tried to get here as fast as I can. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to left. I really want this job. I'm sorry. sorry for being late, and they try and lean stuff as fast as they can. They sit down, ready for the interview. Option 2, they very calmly open the door. They slowly walk very calmly into the room and sit down. They take a moment to compose themselves. They straighten their jacket, maybe they do at their button, fix their tie, very neatly sit down, make sure they're all ready. They haven't even acknowledged you yet. They put down their briefcase or bag, and only when they're ready, thanks for waiting, let's begin, shall we? Either way, you're probably not going to be hiring them, but you've got to respect the balls on number 2, just to come in very calmly. They know you've been waiting, they know it's been 5 minutes, but they know they couldn't have done anything about it. Their train was delayed, they couldn't do anything about that. They did their best to get here on time. They're not going to act all unprofessional. They walk in and go, thanks for waiting. This is incredibly arrogant, but it also shows a very high level of professionalism where you haven't come in, you haven't been a mess, you haven't shown that you're a disaster. You've gone, okay, cool, thank you for waiting. Let's begin. Louis knows he can take as much time as he wants to walk up to stage, and no one is going to say or do anything about it. He is the general leading his soldiers. He is also positioned so in every shot he is center focus of the page, minus the 2-page spread out one, because that'd be a bit weird if he was center focus and he'd be right in the middle of the crack and it would look very weird. He would look derpy and it's like half folded. It wouldn't look as powerful, but he's still almost center focused in the wide shot. However, originally when I read through this manga, I didn't even realise the other characters walking in with him, behind him. I just saw him as the centre focus of the shot and didn't notice the other drama department characters. Later that day, when Kai and Legoshi are chatting on the fly deck, we as the audience find out that only certain people are allowed to join the drama department, which in all honesty feels like a very weird scene to include. As far as I can tell, this piece of canon never comes back up in the series, and ultimately only leaves more questions than it answers. Ultimately, we learn about 4 characters: Sheila, Mina, Moro, and Kai. Each of them have an interesting past. And while I do enjoy world building of the background characters, as I said a moment ago, this never comes back up, so it feels kind of out of place. I like the concept of the fact that the drama department only accepts certain people who have an interesting past, but it still feels odd. This also creates what I've come to dub the paradox of world building, which presents information that's only purpose is to help world build the subject currently being talked about. But the only reason the subject is currently being talked about is because it's being world built. It's sort of like erecting a sign that says, beware of sign, where the only purpose of the sign is to warn people about the sign. But the only reason there is a sign is because it needs a sign to say, beware of sign. But the only reason it says beware of sign is because there is a sign there. But the only reason there is a sign there is to say, beware of sign. If they had removed the sign, they would have no need to say, beware of sign. Therefore, they wouldn't need a sign to say, beware of sign. So nothing would have changed. To my knowledge, there is never another moment in the series where the topic of only certain people with hardships in their past can join the drama department. If there had been an arc much later on in the series where someone had an amazing acting skill, was fantastic on the stage, had all the charisma and all the power of an actor, but because they had a very mundane and normal past, they couldn't join the drama department, sure, that would be an interesting thing, but it never does happen as far as I can tell. Instead, the only reason this piece of world building exists is to be a jumping off point to ask other questions later in the series. And I think that's clever, but in a vacuum, it feels very out of place. I think the main purpose for this scene is to plant the seed that both Legoshi and Louis have a past made up of hardships. However, while Kai discusses the hardship of the members of the drama department, he is talking about the imperfections of the drama department students. However, while he is doing this, Louis is always silhouetted out. It is never showing Louis as being vulnerable. It is only once Legoshi starts talking about how perfect Louis is that he becomes visible and takes center stage in the spotlight. With that said though, let's talk about the sexual tension between Legoshi and Louis. Skipping forward beyond the press scene because there's not really much to talk about, I think it's funny how in the manga they actually break the fourth wall and mention how, hey, he's so small that he doesn't fit in the panel, how the editor-chief is so small he can't fit into the panel. That's funny. I like that's very cool. And I like in the anime how there's this cool shot which shows very nice Louis. However, this scene consists of Louis reflecting on his injury and how he believes carnivores see him. Legoshi enters and starts discussing final lighting changes for the show the next day. However, Louis can only focus on his claws as he does. Louis aggressively approaches Legoshi, demanding he bites him, claiming that he is no mere herbivore, before Legoshi explains how he has to pretend because of how much of a threat wolves are. So, Before we actually look at this scene, let's answer the question brought up at the start of the episode. Let's answer the question that many of the community ask about a series like this, which leaves information ambiguous and up to interpretation. Are Louis and Legoshi straight? Ultimately, I don't think there is a singular answer. As I said at the start of the video, this is an interpretive series where anyone's interpretation is up to whatever they interpret it as. It may not be the right answer, it may not be the wrong answer, but it is an interpretation, and without clarification from the creator, there is no definitive answer. However, they are still free to make that interpretation. And again, as I said at the start of the video, there is an amazing video by Boren Keith that goes in depth into the homoerotic subtext of Beastars and whether it means anything. I believe he made a very strong and very powerful and very solid argument for an interpretation of the series, and I very much agree with his interpretation of the series. However, I also believe it is an interpretation of the series. I do not believe it is the answer, nor do I believe my interpretation I'm about to explain is the answer. But I believe these interpretations are very strong arguments to be had. However, if you do wish to watch this video by Boren Keith and you've only ever watched the anime, beware of spoilers beyond the end of where the anime ends. I highly recommend reading the manga for yourself first, because the world of Beastars, the stories in it, are worth interpreting yourself and witnessing firsthand and reading and experiencing for yourself. And in watching a video such as Boren Keith one, you will be spoiled on a lot of reveals throughout the series. However, if you have read the manga, definitely go and watch the 3-hour long video. It is worth your time. But if you haven't read the manga and you don't care about spoilers, I'd still say watch the video. But if you do enjoy the series and you've only watched the anime, please go and read the manga first. Personally, I believe both Louis and Legoshi are ultimately straight, or at the very least much closer to what is considered straight than any other category of what people define as. But I do not believe this is the definitive answer, and to simply say yes, they're straight is a gross undersimplification of what I believe about these characters. For a large percentage of the series, I believe Louis can be best described as the Beastars equivalent of Mr. Robot's Tyrell Wellick, or at the very least, the mask of Louis can be described as Tyrell Wellick. And if you enjoy this kind of content where you're overthinking content, absolutely, if you have not watched Mr. Robot, go and check it out. It is a overthinker's wet dream. However, why do I believe Louis is the equivalent of Tyrell? I believe this because I do not believe the mask of Louis. I believe Louis himself sees male and female, but I believe the mask of Louis does not see male or female, heteronormative or not. He simply sees those he can use to progress his desires. It simply sees people as tools to be used to achieve his goal. I do believe Louis, as the mask, would sleep with anyone of any gender, race, orientation or history if it meant progressing his goals. However, while he may sleep with other men, he is not doing it because he is attracted to men. He is doing it because it forwards his goals. He is doing it because he is attracted to the incentive of forwarding his intent. He is doing it because he sees it as a stepping stone to getting closer to what he desires. A stepping stone to becoming stronger in a world where he sees himself as inherently weak just because how he was born. In reality though, the real version of Louis, the version behind the mask, the actual version of Louis, is a deeply loving character who has a massive heart and cares about the ones he cares about. To the point that, yes, by the end of season 2, when he breaks down in tears in front of Legoshi, he is doing it because he can no longer hold back the fact that he loves Legoshi. But he's not loving him in a sexual manner, he is loving him in a filial manner. Much the same with Legoshi. Legoshi does love Louis. I don't believe there's any interpretation or discussion to be had about that. There is definitive fact that he loves him and he is spending the entire season 2 hunting to bring his friend back and save him. Legoshi is a deeply loving character who knows what it means to be isolated from the world and knows what it feels like to be that isolated. And he will do whatever he can to help his friends so they don't have to experience such isolation or depression. But I don't believe this makes either of them inherently gay. I also don't believe that makes them inherently straight either though, which is one of the very pillars of the series. Characters do not fit into nice, tidy boxes. There are not good and bad people in Beastars world. There are morally grey and subjective characters in the world. Carnivores aren't all vicious, blood-hungry monsters, and herbivores aren't all vulnerable, helpless creatures. And at the end of the day, doesn't really matter what they actually are, whether they're straight, bi, ace, or anything else in between. They're fictional characters, so whatever your interpretation is, allow it to be your interpretation. However, do not try and deny others their own interpretation as long as they are not trying to force their interpretation on you. Moving on though, let's talk about the very heavy homoerotic implied subtext of the scene that is totally there. This scene opens focused on medicine and Louis' injury, instantly making the focus of the scene being Louis' vulnerability. The fact that Louis is currently physically weaker, with Louis internally monologuing that he is aware that he was born weak, that his body wasn't made for fighting. And this is an interesting choice of wording, because in both the sub and the dub, it's unclear whether Louis is referring to just the period between getting injured and this point, or whether he's talking about from the moment he was born to this point. Even in the manga it's unclear, but can we actually acknowledge how dark of a reality that is? And people are born just to be devoured in this world, and there are people that are aware of that. Whether someone is literally born into being just meat, or sold or forced into a world where they live in cages only to be sold as meat at a later date. Beastars presents a world where criminals traffic animals just to be devoured. They sell entire lives just to be devoured, which is a very strong parallel to real world effects of people being sold and their lives essentially ending. But I am not qualified to talk about that, so let's keep it in the subtext and symbolism of an anime, shall we? If you want to know more about that subject, look up videos or topics on people who are actually qualified to talk about such subjects. Due to how Louis was raised, he sees himself as nothing more than meat. Also, can we just take a moment to circle back around to how Louis believes he wasn't made for fighting? He is a deer. He has antlers, sharp, pointy, hard antlers that he could use to impale any foe or enemy while keeping his body out of reach. Sure, there are larger beasts in that Beastars world that have sharper claws and would be a threat to Louis, but I don't know if any of you have ever been pierced by multiple objects in the chest at once that have impaled and broken the skin, but I can say for quite certainty, even though I've never experienced it, if that happened, chances are you're not going to be able to fight back. Regardless of someone's strength or power, piercing in the chest will take you down. You will go into shock. Getting stabbed in the stomach makes you drop to the ground. Imagine being stabbed by multiple sharp antler claws. Getting pierced by that, yeah, you would go down immediately. Hell, stags are even considered dangerous creatures in the wild, because if one charges at you, you're going to die, probably. If a stag impales you, you're done for. So if Louis were to head first charge into someone, that would be a fatal wound. He is very much made for fighting. But while Louis is talking about how he's not made for fighting, he is staring up at the skull of Adler, of the Grim Reaper, of Death, of a skull modelled after his own face. He is staring back at his own skull, which we'll talk about more in the next episode, but there are many reasons this skull annoys me. But for now, keep it in mind because we are coming back to the skull. We are talking more about the skull. In the manga, the skull is presented as much larger and more imposing, looming over Louis and reinforcing the idea of how vulnerable and weak he is in this current moment. It also shows two more skulls on the side, which I think is a cool thing, because yeah, of course, it's the main skull of the main performance for the drama department. Of course they're going to have spare skulls, but that still raises issues, which we'll talk about later on in the next episode. But yeah, this skull annoys me. Either way though, regardless whether it's the anime or the manga, this scene consists of Louis staring into the eyes of Death. Or, eye sockets. Skulls don't really have eyes. Lack thereof. Staring into the eye sockets of Death. You know what I meant, right? Yeah. He is staring into what would have been the eyes of Death. He is staring at a reflection of his own skull. He is staring himself as Death at himself. The following scene, the power balance is clearly presented through each of the characters' body language. Louis is in the foreground, sat down and comfortable. Perhaps even to be said he is sat upon his throne as the ruler of the theatre department, despite the fact that Sanu is the one technically in charge. The following shots showing Louis from a much closer perspective than Legoshi, which is threefold. The first, of course, being to allow the camera to focus on Legoshi's hands, as Louis comments on a few moments later. The second, allowing us as the watcher to follow Louis' eyes as he tracks Legoshi's hands. And the third is to reinforce the power balance between the two. Louis' shot is taken up by just a section of his face, making him appear much more imposing and powerful than Legoshi. Whereas Legoshi's shot has him as a much smaller aspect of the scene, making him appear much smaller and less imposing. And let's also just take a moment to appreciate how fluid Legoshi's hand movements are in the scene, and how clean it looks. I thought it was on ones, but it actually is still on twos, but it moves so smoothly, it looks like it's on ones. Also, if you don't know what ones, twos, and threes are, let me quickly explain. 1, 2, and 3 refer to animation scenes. 1, 2, and 3 refers to 1 frame, 2 frame, and 3 frames. Most anime characters are moved on 2 frames, so there's 1 frame where they're not actually moved, 2 frames where they're the same. But it looks so smooth that you don't really notice. That way the animation team doesn't have to animate every single frame. Whereas if they're doing every other frame, it's only half as many frames, so they get to do something much. It looks just as clean, but while they do a lot of hard work, it allows them to do half the work in half the time while still doing something amazing. Either way, this scene is so fluid that I swore Legoshi's hands were on ones, and it was just one clean motion. But no, they are on twos, and I respect Oren for how buttery they made this scene. An interesting point of note, while in all likelihood it is just Louis looking at Legoshi's claws, in this shot, when Louis looks downwards, it almost looks as if he's staring at the skull between him and Legoshi, and the connotations that come with that. When Louis does comment on Legoshi's claws, we see as Legoshi's shoulders come up and his claws come into his body, making him appear almost sheepish and small in the scene. Instead of his hands being shoulder width apart and then looking at his claws with might, they are in close and he is looking downwards and sheepish about it. As Louis does stand up, his music, the track, Ruiz the Beast, starts to play to reinforce the power Louis holds in this moment. This, in conjunction with the next shot of Louis from a much closer perspective, creates the feeling of being cornered or trapped. Even though the camera is pulling back, Louis is moving at a faster pace, quickly enveloping the entire shot with his eyes piercing through at Legoshi, and by extension, us the watcher. However, Louis doesn't rush the camera. Instead, it is a slow march towards Legoshi, which can be heard in his footsteps as he does. They're deliberate, powerful stomps. Louis is intentionally putting power into his steps to appear more intimidating, to present as the same threat level as a carnivore, which raises an interesting discussion to be had of which version of Louis is actually the real version. Because even this version isn't real. This is a mask of Louis. However, just the same, the perfect version he presents to the world is also a mask. Whenever he's attempting to appear perfect, his steps are much more graceful and soft. However, as we know, this isn't the real version of Louis. It is just the version he puts on for the public eye. Alternatively though, in this scene, Louis is also putting on a mask. He is attempting to appear as what he believes to be powerful and intimidating. Returning to the scene, the camera changes to Legoshi. We see him slowly start to back away, becoming smaller in the shot. The powerful carnivore steps away from the shot, whereas the vulnerable herbivore pushes forward into it. It could also be that when the camera is pulling away from Louis, that the camera is Legoshi, that we are seeing the scene through his eyes. And of course, this ultimately leads to that shot. The shot that launched 1,000 ships. Louis pushes Legoshi up against the wall, his body somewhat lunged, making him appear a foot or so shorter than he actually is, making Legoshi appear even larger as his hand rested on his chest, the two meeting eyes, gazing into each other's soul. But of course, this creates another symbolic... That was really dumb. This creates another symbolic moment in the series. Legoshi is looking downwards, while Louis is looking upwards. If you're looking downwards, it's very often correlated with the idea of submissiveness. You're bowing your head, you're bending the knee, you don't want to match eyes with the person you're talking to. You are avoiding challenging the alpha. You don't want to meet their gaze, as you don't believe you are equal to them, so you look downwards. Whereas a dominant person will assert their authority. They'll meet the eye level of the other, looking them straight in the eye, or if they believe themselves more powerful or superior, they may even raise their chin and look downwards at the other. As the old saying goes, to raise one's nose up at someone, to physically have to look down on them. Looking down on them, of course, is very different to looking downwards. In looking downwards, you have to raise your eyes to meet them. You are very beneath them. You are lowering yourself. You are bowing before them. Their line of sight is literally above yours. However, when you raise your head to look down on them, you have to lower your eyesight to match theirs. If you keep your eyes exactly where your head is facing, you're looking up into the sky. You're seeing great things. You're staring off into the distance. And that's when the assassin can come up and stab you if you're not focusing. But by looking down on them, your eyes go downwards and you are focused on them. They are beneath you. Their eye level is under yours. While this does work in the manga, it just doesn't quite capture the same level as the anime. As the anime scene progresses, the scene zooms out to show a much wider perspective. Louis and Legoshi only take up a third of the shot. However, of that third, Louis' body is stretched out, covering a decent chunk of it, while Legoshi is almost a thin, straight line in the shot, while also subconsciously conveying the power balance in this scene. Louis has all the space behind him to freely move, whereas Legoshi is pushed up against a wall, unable to move anywhere. He has no personal space. He is in a vulnerable position, despite being the bigger, stronger, and physically more powerful one in the scene. This shot is also unintentionally hilarious to me. Louis has his hand wrapped around Legoshi's neck, and we even see that little push inward as he presses up against his windpipe. But Louis is such a non-threat to Legoshi. He doesn't even realise he's being choked. Instead, he just questions what Louis is talking about. He is currently having his throat pressed up against the wall, but he's not even mad about it. He's just like, what is Louis talking about? What does he want? What's going on? Why is it a bit hard to breathe? Whereas if a carnivore had grabbed Legoshi by the throat, Legoshi would have reacted very differently. I also think it's interesting how Louis is in the same position as Haru in this situation. He wants to be treated as an equal and not as a helpless herbivore. However, no one is actually treating him as a helpless herbivore. He just perceives others as treating him that way because of the lingering damage and trauma from his childhood of being treated in such a way. My personal belief is Louis believes in order to be treated as an equal to carnivores, he needs to be seen as just as powerful as carnivores. But what he doesn't seem to understand is he already has that power in a different form. There's a quote that I really like that goes, "When on the battlefield, those to fear most are not the young brash men eager to draw their shiny unscratched blade, nor those who draw their blade with shaky hands. Those to fear most are those with grey hair and wrinkles, who wish not to draw their worn out chipped blades with hilts stained in blood." The quote has many meanings, and I should know because I made it up. The main meaning behind it is those who try to avoid violence often aren't doing it for their sake. They're doing it for yours. They're not scared to fight, they just wish not to. However, if they need to, they will, and they will most likely win. But the other meaning behind it is those who have strength very rarely actually have to broadcast that they have strength. It is only in broadcasting how strong you are that you prove how weak you are. It's sort of the equivalent of guys who constantly brag about, "Yeah, I'm massive," which normally means, yeah. Or those who post to Instagram constantly have to say, "Look how perfect my life is. My life is perfect. I'm great. Look at these amazing photos that I took that totally haven't been perfectly airbrushed and edited. I'm so perfect. My life is great. I'm fantastic." It normally means that no, your life's not. You're just trying to convince people you are because you want to pretend you are. Those who have amazing lives often don't have to brag about it. Those who have amazing lives just think, yeah, you know what? My life is great. I'm very happy where I'm in life and this is great. Anyway, back to Beastars! Louis is powerful, but he perceives himself as weak, so tries to act powerful, and in doing so, comes across as insecure and weak. Louis is powerful, but he perceives himself as weak. And in believing that, he tries to prove how strong he is, which in turn shows how weak he actually is. Ironic, isn't it? Louis is so insistent to be seen as an equal to Legoshi until the moment he forces Legoshi's fangs into his hand. And we instantly see Louis' mask drop and his face change to show the fear of being devoured. It is in that moment that Louis' grip loosens and Legoshi manages to grapple away. Legoshi responds by explaining how he needs to pretend due to the strength of wolves, which comes back to the idea of shiny blades. Legoshi knows he'd win the fight. However, he doesn't want to fight. That being said, the manga refers to Legoshi's strength by saying the world doesn't need powerful wolves, and the sub refers to it as prideless, which are all very different ways and all very interesting ways of describing his strength, but ultimately all lead to the same point of Legoshi denying a part of himself. However, it does raise the question of where a monster's place is in the world. Assassination's Classroom is an amazing series about a class of rejects who try to kill their octopus teacher to help save the world. Yes, that is the actual plot. No, I'm not making it up, and no, I'm not explaining it further. If you want to know more, go and read the manga. Throughout the series, we slowly watch as our main character, Nagisa, comes to master all the skills that come with being an amazing assassin, which leads to a moment where Kurasama, one of the government agents helping the kids to kill the octopus, questions, should such a skill be nurtured? Nagisa doesn't want to be an assassin, but he's also aware that he has the ability to be an amazing assassin. Unsure what to do after graduation, the latter half of the series repeatedly raises the question of what should I do after I graduate, and should I become an assassin? It isn't until 14 volumes later that we actually get a definitive answer to what Nagisa wants to do after he graduates. However, even then, the answer is technically ambiguous. But the series does raise another question of what it means to create a monster to help kill a monster. If you want peace, prepare for war and all that. But throughout the series, we see as Nagisa learns these skills that are used to kill to actually be used to help protect others. The same is true of Beastars and Legoshi. The world of Beastars has no need for powerful wolves who use their power to impose their own thoughts on the world. However, the world can use powerful wolves who use their strength to protect others. Legoshi doesn't want to draw his blade. He just wants to live in a world where he is not feared. However, he is also aware that in the world of Beastars, being born as a wolf creates an inherent fear of them just for being born as a wolf, which can be traced back to the idea of not all, but some. I've used this analogy in another video, but it's a good analogy, so I'm using it again here. But this is like the conundrum of the cruel candy maker. There is a candy man who sells the best candy you've ever imagined. Imagine Wonka in real life, the best, most delicious, most fantastical, delicious candy you've ever tasted. Everyone wants to try it, but every 10,000th bag contains peanuts. The bag isn't labelled any differently, and there's no way of telling without opening the bag and trying the candies. To most people, this isn't really a problem. They open the bag, it happens to have peanuts in. Okay, cool, I thought it was getting caramel flavour, it's actually peanut flavour. That's fine by me, that's not a problem to me. I'm okay with peanut flavour, but I prefer the casual, but whatever, yeah, I got peanut flavour. For most people, that's not a problem. However, to those who have a lethal peanut allergy, they can never take the risk, or if they do take the risk, every time they do, there is a chance they will be killed. Being a herbivore or a weaker carnivore in the world of Beastars is much the same. Even if only 1 in every 10,000th carnivore is actually dangerous, that's still a 0.01% chance that that will be a dangerous carnivore. And in a world of 7 billion inhabitants, that means in the world there are 700,000 dangerous carnivores. And if you live in a large town such as the world of Beastars, chances are you will encounter a higher than not percentage of those. Legoshi knows he is capable of being dangerous, so does his best to hide his strength. However, this also raises the ethical question of what it means to show prejudice towards a dangerous carnivore when they have not yet done anything to be a dangerous carnivore, which also leads to a deeper discussion of the chicken and egg ideology. Would a dangerous carnivore have chosen the path they had if society hadn't already treated them as if they'd already walked down that path? But that is a video topic discussion for a whole other video, and it's something I'll talk about more if I ever actually get around to making that Psychopaths video. I should really finish writing that because that's a fun video to make, but if I ever get around to it, don't worry, I'll talk about this subject in that, but let's stick to Beastars for now. At this point in the series, Legoshi doesn't realise his power can be used to help others, and it's through his journey in the series that he discovers that. Legoshi also acknowledges Louis' strength about how powerful he is, claiming he is powerful in the right way, which implies there is a right and wrong way to be powerful. And I believe this is true. There is a right and wrong way to be powerful in the world. However, while I believe this is true, I believe in Louis and Legoshi's cases, he is seeing it in the wrong perspective. In Legoshi's case, the two sides are Legoshi's being born with strength versus Louis' being born weak and still standing your ground. And for anyone wondering, in the real world, the two sides of the argument is being strong and using that power to threaten or intimidate others into getting what you want, and being strong and using that power to protect or defend others. Legoshi leaves the room, and as he does, Louis comments on how he didn't want to hear that from Legoshi. And I think there are a few reasons for this, but I'll leave it up to you to decide why Louis doesn't want to hear that from Legoshi, because I think there are many reasons. I'm interested to know what your guys' thoughts are. And considering we're talking more about this in the next episode, I'll tell you what my interpretation is in the next episode. Which, while we're talking about next episode is the opening night of Adler. Oh, and I also know that in this episode I haven't talked about how the anime reorientated the manga to tell a slightly different story, but it makes more sense to talk about it in the next episode of the world. So in the next episode I will talk about that more as well. And until then, thanks for watching. This is how many subscribers the channel currently has as of making this video, and I'll see you in the next video. See ya! However, before we even talk about Legoshi's and Louis' interpretive tension, we first need to talk about Louis. It's also Legoshi, isn't it? Not Legoshi. 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 Lego-shi. Her Lego. Legoshi. I like Legoshi more, but Legoshi is kind of how it's said. I've always said Legoshi though. Like La-Goshi. This is Lagoshi. Like Legoshi? Or would you like whatever the Lagoshi? The female French. I'm wearing an appropriate shirt today, aren't I? Also, you're now thinking about how you walk, aren't you? Like going to your brain. You also might be thinking about how you breathe all of a sudden. You're now manually breathing. Don't worry, that'll go away in like 2 minutes, but for the next 2 or so minutes, or until you get distracted, you'll be manually thinking about breathing in and out. In and out. Also, you're probably thinking about blinking too, right? Yeah? You have to manually blink. The brain's weird like that. It's cool, right, though, isn't it? Don't forget to breathe. Don't forget to breathe. You need to be seen as just as powerful as herbivores. That's not right. He needs to be seen as just as powerful as herbivores. That's not the right. I meant to write carnivores there. And those who are massive, don't broadcast it. Because if you do, you're just trying to farm attention. When you say you're that big, it means you're that big, mate. The more you brag about it, the smaller you seem. Anyway, back to Beastars! Oh, I think I went down like 2 inches. That was on his back. That really hurt. Myself right in the middle of the spine and everything. However, for those with a lethal peanut gallery, do you have a lethal peanut gallery? Come down to the modern art studio where you can see these dangerous peanuts. I kind of want to draw some mean looking peanuts down. His catchphrase was, "I'm going to bust a nut on you." That's so goddamn dumb, but I want to draw it.